Imagine a warrior bound by an unbreakable code, a master of the blade who values honor above life itself. For centuries, this has been the enduring image of the Japanese samurai. They are legends of discipline, loyalty, and noble sacrifice. But history is rarely a simple tale of heroes and villains. What happens to a society of elite warriors when the wars finally end? When swords are outlawed and the masters they serve no longer exist? The answer lies hidden in the shadows of modern Japan. It is a story of survival, of changing identities, and of how the ashes of the noble samurai class helped pave the way for one of the most notorious underground syndicates in the world. Today, we strip away the myth and dive into the true, unfiltered history of the samurai, tracing their rise, their inevitable fall, and the fascinating, complex thread that connects these ancient warriors to the modern-day organization known as the Yakuza. The dawn of the warrior class. To understand the end of the samurai, we must first understand their quiet, practical beginnings. The samurai did not emerge as the legendary armored heroes we see in films. Their origins date back to the Heian period, around the late 8th century. At this time, Japan was ruled by an emperor and a refined poetry-writing aristocracy in Kyoto. But the capital was a bubble of privilege. Outside Kyoto, the provinces were wild, unpredictable, and difficult to manage. Wealthy landowners needed protection for their sprawling agricultural estates. They could not rely on the distant imperial army, so they began hiring local, armed guards. These guards were the first true samurai. The word itself comes from the verb saburao, which simply means to serve. They were exactly that. Servants to the nobility, tasked with collecting taxes, keeping order, and protecting the land. Over the next few centuries, these scattered guards formed powerful clans. The two most prominent were the Minamoto and the Taira. As the aristocratic court in Kyoto grew weaker and more disconnected from the realities of the provinces, these warrior clans grew stronger. They realized that they held the true power, the power of the sword. In the late 12th century, the Minamoto and Taira clashed in a monumental conflict known as the Genpei War. The Minamoto emerged victorious, and their leader established the first shogunate, a military government based in Kamakura. This was a turning point in Japanese history. The emperor remained as a figurehead, but the samurai were now the undisputed rulers of Japan. They transformed from lowly rural guards into the highest social class in the nation. The Age of War and the Unwritten Code. The following centuries tested the samurai in the crucible of endless conflict. This culminated in the Sengoku Jidai, or the Warring States period, which began in the late 15th century. For over 100 years, Japan was fractured. Independent warlords known as daimyo battled continuously for supremacy. This was the golden age of the samurai as true warriors. It was a time of massive armies, strategic castle sieges, and constant shifting alliances. During this chaotic era, the philosophy of the samurai began to solidify. While the formalized code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, would not be written down until much later during times of peace, the core values were forged on these battlefields. Loyalty to one's lord was paramount. Bravery, martial skill, and an acceptance of death were expected. However, the reality of the Warring States period was also pragmatic. Treachery was common. Samurai would sometimes switch sides if a lord proved weak or incompetent. Survival and the advancement of one's clan often took precedence over idealized notions of honor. It was also during this period that the concept of the Ronin became significant. A Ronin was a samurai without a master. If a lord was defeated and his lands taken, his surviving samurai were left adrift. In an era of constant warfare, a skilled Ronin could usually find a new master quickly. But this dynamic was about to change drastically, setting the stage for a massive social upheaval. The Great Peace and the Masterless Men. In the early 17th century, the Tokugawa clan finally unified Japan, establishing a new shogunate in Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo. The Tokugawa implemented strict social controls to ensure that the chaos of the Warring States period would never return. They divided society into a rigid hierarchy: samurai at the top, followed by farmers, artisans, and merchants at the bottom. The samurai were forced to move into castle towns, separated from the land they once farmed and protected. This era, known as the Edo period, brought over 250 years of unprecedented peace. But peace is the greatest enemy of the warrior. Without wars to fight, the samurai slowly transformed. They became bureaucrats, administrators, and scholars. They studied literature and philosophy, formally codifying the romanticized tenets of Bushido. Yet, beneath the surface of this refined, peaceful society, a deep crisis was brewing. Many samurai found themselves impoverished. They were paid in fixed stipends of rice, which lost value as Japan transitioned to a money-based economy. Merchants, who were at the bottom of the social ladder, grew wealthy, while the elite samurai struggled with debt. Even worse was the plight of the Ronin. The Tokugawa shogunate confiscated the lands of many rival lords, creating thousands of unemployed, masterless samurai. Unlike in the past, there were no new wars to fight and no new masters hiring. These disenfranchised Ronin roamed the cities and the countryside. They were highly trained men, armed with deadly weapons but without purpose, income, or a place in society. This is where the roots of the modern underground begin to take hold. The Kabukimono and the Town Guardians. Among these disillusioned, masterless samurai emerged a subculture known as the Kabukimono. The word roughly translates to the crazy ones, or those who deviate. The Kabukimono were bands of Ronin who rebelled against the strict, suffocating rules of the Tokugawa regime. They dressed in flamboyant, brightly colored kimonos, wore their hair in eccentric styles, and carried excessively long swords. They roamed the streets of Edo and Kyoto, causing trouble, speaking in their own slang, and operating under a fierce code of brotherhood. They were intensely loyal to one another, viewing their bonds as stronger than any law. While they were a massive disruption to public order, their culture of defiance, strict internal hierarchy, and absolute loyalty to their chosen brothers laid a psychological foundation that would echo through the centuries. In response to the chaos caused by the Kabukimono and other rogue elements, another group emerged from the commoner class, the Machi-Yako, or town servants. These were not samurai, but laborers, clerks, and shopkeepers who formed vigilante groups to protect their neighborhoods from the wandering Ronin. The Machi-Yako became local folk heroes, defending the weak against the strong. Interestingly, the modern Yakuza often trace their spiritual lineage not to the oppressive elite samurai, but to these commoner vigilantes, the Machi-Yako, claiming a legacy of protecting the common people when the authorities failed. However, historians note that the line between protector and extortionist was incredibly thin. The Machi-Yako often demanded compensation for their protection, engaging in gambling and controlling local markets. Thus, the underground society of the Edo period became a melting pot. You had fallen samurai turning to street-level enforcement, and commoners organizing into armed, disciplined syndicates. The Meiji Restoration and the Final Fall. The true breaking point for the samurai class came in the mid-19th century. After more than 2 centuries of isolation, foreign ships arrived, forcing Japan to open its ports. The Tokugawa shogunate was seen as weak and incapable of protecting the nation from foreign influence. In 1868, a revolution known as the Meiji Restoration overthrew the shogunate and restored imperial rule. The new Meiji government was determined to modernize Japan at breakneck speed to compete with Western powers. To do this, they had to dismantle the feudal system completely. The samurai class, which had existed for 1,000 years, was officially abolished. Their stipends were cut off. In a devastating symbolic blow, the government passed an edict banning the public wearing of swords. The soul of the samurai was outlawed. Thousands of former samurai found themselves suddenly obsolete in a rapidly industrializing world. Some successfully transitioned into the new imperial army, the police force, or the business sector. But many others, particularly those from the provinces that had supported the old regime, were left destitute and angry. They had lost their status, their income, and their identity. This profound disenfranchisement led to several armed uprisings, the most famous being the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877. Led by Saigo Takamori, a man often called the last true samurai. Thousands of traditional warriors fought a desperate, doomed war against the modern, conscripted imperial army with its Gatling guns and artillery. The rebellion was crushed, and with it, the era of the samurai definitively ended. But the men who survived, and the children of those men, still needed to survive in a society that had discarded them. The forging of the Underworld. With the warrior class dismantled, the remnants of the samurai had to find new avenues. They looked to the margins of society where informal power structures had been quietly operating for decades. During the Edo period, two distinct outcast groups had formed the backbone of the Japanese underground. The Tekiya, who were itinerant peddlers and street merchants, and the Bakuto, the traditional gamblers. Both the Tekiya and the Bakuto operated outside conventional society. They had strict internal hierarchies modeled on the traditional Japanese family structure, with an oyabun, or father figure, leading his kobun, or children. To survive in these marginal worlds, absolute loyalty, secrecy, and discipline were required. When the samurai class fell, many impoverished, highly disciplined ex-warriors gravitated toward these groups. The Bakuto and Tekiya welcomed the organizational skills, martial prowess, and inherent authority that the former samurai brought with them. This merger of fallen elites and established street operators catalyzed the evolution of the modern yakuza. The influence of the former samurai on these underground groups was profound. The syndicates began to adopt and adapt the aesthetics and philosophies of the fallen warrior class. They integrated elements of Bushido into their own codes of conduct. The concept of giri, meaning duty or obligation, and ninjo, human feeling or compassion, became central tenets of the yakuza philosophy. They framed themselves not as mere criminals, but as ninkyudantai, chivalrous organizations bound by a strict moral code, much like the samurai of old. The legacy of the blade. The rituals we associate with the modern underground also reflect this ancient lineage. The intricate full-body tattoos serve as a test of endurance and a permanent mark of commitment to the syndicate, mirroring the samurai's absolute dedication to his lord. The extreme practice of yubitsume, the severing of a finger joint as an apology for a severe offense, has historical roots in sword combat. In the past, a weakened grip on a sword made a warrior more dependent on his lord for protection. In the modern context, it symbolizes a renewed dependence on the syndicate leader. Even the structure of modern syndicates heavily mirrors the old feudal domains. The supreme leader acts much like a daimyo, a warlord commanding absolute obedience from his regional bosses who, in turn, manage the street-level soldiers. The loyalty is vertical, unyielding, and enforced by strict tradition. It is a fascinating, complex reflection. The Yakuza took the discarded armor of the samurai and repurposed it for the shadows. They adopted the romance of the noble outlaw, the rigid discipline of the warrior, and the unwavering loyalty of the vassal. Of course, the reality of the modern underground often contradicts these chivalrous claims, dealing in exploitation and coercion rather than honorable combat. Yet the historical thread remains unbroken. The story of the samurai is not just a story of a class that vanished into the mists of history. It is the story of an energy, a philosophy, and a strictly ordered way of life that, when denied its traditional place in the light, simply adapted and thrived in the dark. The swords may have been melted down, and the castles may have become tourist attractions, but the echo of the masterless warrior, forever searching for a place to belong, still resonates in the hidden corners of modern Japan.